Okay, listeners, welcome back to another episode of Authors on Mission podcast. What if I told you today that the secret to business success isn't just about what you know, but how you keep learning? Today's guest has literally written the book on this, several books actually, and I'm thrilled to welcome Rick Barrera, a nationally acclaimed speaker and marketing consultant and the author of multiple bestsellers, including Learners Are Experts and Overpromise and Overdeliver. Rick has transformed his expertise in brand building and customer experience into wisdom that's helped Fortune 500 companies, and he pretty much just revolutionized their approaches to business, and we're going to dive all into that really soon. But first, I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and creative content officer at Authors on Mission, and today we're diving deep into Rick's journey from consultant to influential author. So Rick, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Danielle. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to meet you. It sounds to me like you just came off of another meeting with your client. You were telling me you had, you're out for all of our viewers.
After ACO Med, have to do the plug. So every time I meet with them, they gave me this shirt. So every time I meet with them, I wear the company uniform shirt. Everybody cracks up that I'm in uniform, but
that's a funny thing these days. When it comes to Zoom calls and virtual meetings, like what uniform do you really have these days? And that's great that you throw on the jacket and all that. To all of our viewers who might not have video right now, he's got on like this uniform. It's got the logo on it. It's a great way to show your partnership with your client. I was actually just talking to somebody about that. It's more than just having a client and saying thank you, like done now, have a good day. It's that partnership thing that supporting them by having on their outfit and kind of building a relationship off that.
If there is a single word that has defined my career, it's been partnership. I talk about it all the time. I don't try to sell people stuff, right? I try to find a way. How do we partner? How do we come together and partner so we both win? And the guy who owns this company, ACO Med Supply in Charlotte, North Carolina, he's one of the best partnerers that I've ever worked with. So he and I have this great partnership, and then we're out forming partnerships with other companies. And he's growing the business just hand over fist because he knows how to be a great partner. And that's so, to me, that's the secret to great business.
Yeah, honestly, I agree completely. And it's really whatever field you're into, in the business realm, in the writer's world as well. You can't do it all on your own. You need to have partners. You need to, have that teamwork, that support. You might think you can do it on your own, but there's always somebody who can offer you a little bit of advice, or, you run an idea by them. And I'm sure that's what you and him do all the time.
You can always do it on your own, but it's slow.
Yeah, right.
The problem that humans have, that young humans don't really understand, is that time is finite and time is scarce.
Oh, believe me, I'm learning that now more and more.
So I talk to the people in my lives, both in business and personal, about moments and minutes. And I say, geez, we've got 32 minutes together tonight, right? And they look at me and they go, why do you talk like that? I said, because they're so precious, right? They're here and they're gone. I have many friends who are no longer here. They don't have any more minutes left. But in the business world, my clients know this about me. They don't dare use the word wait. Like when I say, what's happening with this? Oh, we're waiting for this to happen or for these people to get back to us or whatever. Go nuts. Because if you wait 2 or 3 days for somebody, you say, well, that's pretty reasonable. Okay. If you have 1,000 employees and they each wait 3 days, we've just waited 3,000 collective days.
I never would have thought about it that way.
Right. And we wonder, why doesn't the business grow faster and keep up with things or whatever? You can't. You can't.
Gotta stay on time. Gotta stay on schedule. That's so funny, Rick. When, to all of the listeners, right before we started this recording, I said to Rick, I'm like, we have a few minutes. Like, if you need to do anything, he's like, but it's 6:30. I'm like, you're right. Okay, let's stay on time.
Every minute is precious, so let's use it.
Yeah.
Right?
Why waste time?
Let's get on camera and get it done.
I love it. Yeah. That's a great way to just approach anything. If you have something in plan and you have to just follow through with it.
That's why partners are so valuable. If you have 6 things to do and it would each take you a day, right? You can get 6 partners and you can have it done in 1 day instead of 6 days. Now you're 6 times faster than your competitors.
Okay. Yeah, no,
right?
That's so funny. I'm going to go a different direction, but that's actually makes a lot of sense too. It's split the work in half. You get it done even faster, and you can spend.
So it's a lever. It's a power lever on your time, which is the scarcest thing. So everybody, especially this newer generations. I won't call them younger generations. It sounds like I'm an old fogey. I'm not, but, well, maybe you think I am, but I don't think I am. That's not how my brain works, but they have this, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. I can do it myself. They were raised like that. Right. And I'm like, of course you can. Why would you want to? Right. Because of the time factor, you can compress time, and that's a huge competitive weapon.
Definitely. It's funny. I actually just wrote a blog article about this. You can do it on your own, but why, if you're able to save that time? And not only that, but when you're on your own, there's a level of, I was actually going to say this before, accountability. It's sometimes like, can do this tomorrow, or like, it's too hard, I can't accomplish this. Having somebody there behind your back, supporting you, and also helping you split up the work, organizing it. It goes in many different directions. So it actually has a lot to do with, like, I'm all about writing, I'm all about editing. And so in that kind of world, you need to have that framework too, time management. You can't let minutes go to waste. You're scheduling time to write, you sit down and do it.
That's why I wrote my book is How to Write and Publish a Nonfiction
book right
in 10 days. Because I know people have spent years. The book still sucks, right? You may as well suck in 10 days and be done, right?
Yeah.
People used to say to me all the time, I want to write a book. And I used to say to them, the difference between your book and my book? And they'd say, what? I say, mine's out and yours isn't.
Yeah. And so what's the difference, right, Rick?
Look, if you're going to write this is for nonfiction. I don't know anything about fiction books. Those people are magical, right? But nonfiction books, if you're going to write a nonfiction book, it's because you know your topic, you know your subject. If you know your subject, and most people do, the book, in my view, can't be more than 100 pages because nobody wants to read more than 100 pages. If you know your topic and you can't sit down and bang out 100 pages, then you don't know your topic, right? I mean, 100 pages barely skimming the surface of what you know on a given topic. And so taking 3 months or 6 months or a year or whatever, 2 years to write a book, it just drags out the process. In the end, it's not, 50 times better. It might be 5% better, 10% better, but so what? Write a second one, write a sequel, write a third one. Go back and edit it 2 years later, There's so many other options. Like, get it done, get it out, get it in the hands of the people who need the thing that you know how to do.
Yeah, I tell this all the time to my clients. Sometimes the more that you think about it and the more time you spend on it, the worse comes, because you start just adding in more things that don't need to be said, or you're repeating yourself, or
you're going into a level of detail that nobody wants to understand.
Exactly.
I want to bake a cake. I don't want to understand how flour chemically combines with sugar and salt.
Just say, you need
what the interim chemicals are. I just want to know how much chocolate does it need in order to be super chocolatey, because that's all I really care about.
Chocolate lover, I like it. I'm more of a peanut butter kind of girl, but I said it all the time. I have this client.
A great partnership. Peanut butter and chocolate.
Hey, there you go. Buying it right back. I like it. You can't go wrong. You're right. All about hey, Reese's are important. Reese's are crucial. What? Let me ask you this now. What is your go-to writing snack? I mean, peanut butter is always a good one for me. If you have the Reese's cups, do you have something that you have on your desk right now?
The Girardelli dark chocolate squares, the 86%.
You're fancy.
Pure ID, right in the vein.
Awesome. No, sometimes you need that stimulation, and I guess that kind of ties back into staying on track with your time. I mean, you have to do what you got to do to write. Sometimes you need to, get the creative juices flowing, get yourself a snack, get yourself some coffee, whatever it is, and just, get back to the writing world and knock it out in that 10 days, like you said in your book. Now, I wonder, so one thing I always say to my clients is, and maybe you have the same type of advice, an outline is pretty much what you need to get started. And if you have a solid foundation for that, then it's just a matter of plugging the material in.
Yep. So that's what I do. People say to me, well, how do I write this book? What do I do? How do I start? I said, sit down and write 10 chapter headlines. What you mean, the title chapters, right? Give me the 10 titles of the 10 chapters. And most people can sit down and do that literally in less than 7 minutes. They just sit down, they go, okay. So, and they write, and they have, within 7 minutes, they've got someplace between 7 and 15 chapters. I'm like, there's your book. Write a little bit under each one and you're done. It's quick and easy.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say too. You have your chapters, but that's not enough. You have to put a little bit under each one. Whenever I work with my clients too, I always say you need to just make that outline as detailed as possible. The more time you invest, then just the easier it's going to be. It's like the foundation to your house. If it's solid and it's strong, then you sit down and you write it. It's done, 1 chapter a day. Do some revising, in and out.
I have to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a funny story. It's in the book, but I love this because it's human nature and how people's brains work. So I was working with a friend of mine who does the really high end, motivational, get your life together kind of seminars, right? We were sort of team teaching the thing. And so this woman came to the back of the room the first day, and we had them do an assignment and say, what's the one thing you want to get out of the 3 days we're going to spend together here? And then we had them come back and talk to the coaches and say, okay, what is it you want to get done, and how do we move this forward and make sure that 3 days from now is you've had a huge breakthrough. And this woman came to me and she said, I've always wanted to write a book. And I said, awesome. I said, do you know what the book's about? And she said, yes. I said, okay, what's the title of the book? She told me. I said, what's the first chapter about? And she told me, like right off the top of her head. So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave the seminar. I want you to go up to your room right now and write chapter 1. And she said, oh, no, I can't. I said, why not? She said, because I'm going to miss the seminar. I said, why'd you come here this weekend? She said, because I want to write a book. I said, great. So, you're seeing this right away, right?
Yeah,
He couldn't see this at all, right? So I said, just do this. Just go up to your room, write chapter 1, bring it back down. As soon as you're done, come to me. I'll be back here. So she went up to her room, like 45 minutes, an hour later, she comes back down and she goes, oh my God, I did it. I wrote chapter 1. It's so good. She goes, I'm so excited. I'm going to write it up. Yeah. She's like, oh my God, this is like amazing. So she said, I'm going to go back to the seminar. I said, why? She said, well, because I'm here for 3 days for the seminar. I said, what's your number one goal out of the seminar? She said, I want to write a book. I said, great. What I want you to do is go back to your room and write chapter 2. And she said, but I'm going to miss the seminar. I said, why are you here? She said, to write a book. I said, great, go to your goal. I won't bore you with the rest of the story, but believe me,
I think I can understand the pattern there.
2.5 days, okay, of me harassing her. And she kept saying, I'm really upset. I said, why? I'm missing the seminar. I said, and what are you going to learn from the guru? And she said, I want to write a book. She'd already written 5 chapters, and she's still telling me about missing something.
Yeah, it's like, what else are you going to find out, right? Get out there, get to it.
So in the middle of day 3, she came down and she goes, that's it. That's the final chapter. I've written a book.
In 3 days.
And I said, and what did you come here to do? And she said, oh, I came here to write a book, and I wrote a book. And she didn't really get it until the whole thing was done. She thought I was making her do some practice exercise or something. It was hysterical, but that's what it is. You can do it.
I guess there's just these impressions people have about writing, thinking there is a certain level of skill to it. There's a certain level of talent. However, especially with nonfiction,
but that's what editors are for.
There you go.
If you suck, your editor will fix it. Okay, and if you're good, you don't need your editor to fix it, right?
It doesn't matter how hard it is the editor's job. Yeah, as an editor myself, I can tell you. I've had pieces come to me that are just a jumble of words, scattered chapters. That's what developmental editors for. That's what line editors are for. You go through the process. You work with somebody. You hop on a Zoom call. I work with clients all the time, and sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll get a voice recording from them like, Danielle, I just had this idea. I forgot I need to add it into chapter 4. And so that's the thing. As soon as you want to have that book written, you just start doing it. Yeah. And that's what teamwork is about. Going back to what we were just talking about, partnership. You partner with somebody. At Authors on Mission, we have so many different realms, whatever you need help with, whether it's editing, whether it's the angel writing. We actually call it angel writing here at Authors on Mission. Whether it's, getting the final manuscript out into the world, you need that partner. You need someone to help you. And like we just said, it's that fear of thinking you're not good enough to write, maybe, or that
you can't never get to your second book till you get your first book out.
There you go.
And people say, they say to me, well, what if I write it? What if people don't like it? I guarantee you, you can take a day, a week, a month, or 20 years to write your book. There will be people who don't like your book. It's okay. J.K. Rowling got rejected, 18, 20 times, whatever, before Harry Potter got accepted. There are a lot of people who are not going to like your book. Stop worrying about them. You have to write for the audience who does like your book. The people who will read it and accept it and adopt it. And, they're desperate for your book. And when they get it and they read it, they go, oh my God, this is exactly the book that I've been waiting for. I just opened a gym.
You opened a gym, workout gym.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, tell me about that.
It's a fitness gym. I have a personal trainer. We've been friends for 7 years. She works me out all the time, and she kept saying, I want to open a gym. I'm like, let's do it. So we opened a gym.
That's so cool. You know what? I just want to talk to all of our listeners. I went out and I did research on Rick, and I found out, he's a speaker, he's a consultant, he's an author, and now I'm finding out he also owns a gym. That just, to me, I'm like, okay, we're all over the place here. You do so much. I love it.
I'm a serial entrepreneur.
So tell me more about it.
The point I'm making is that I don't know anything about opening a gym, but my partner wanted to open a gym, my trainer, right? Just like, let's partner up, let's open it. I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. And then, of course, I go to plop down the money, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything about opening a gym. So I went and found this book on how to open a gym. And it is A to Z, everything you need to know about opening a gym from day one until, total success. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that somebody for $25 told me everything I need to know about how to be successful. Like, what if he hadn't written it? What if he just said, oh, it's not good enough? What is it? Oh, it's not done yet. Oh, I didn't get to this part yet. Oh, well, I didn't talk about, just get it out, because somebody is out there who desperately needs that. I mean, it changed my life.
Yeah, it's so funny. As you're talking, I have so many thoughts going through my head. And I mean, I guess the point of the whole thing you just said is that you might think no one's going to like your book, right? But it's more about finding that right audience.
Find the 7 people who do love your book, and they will adore you and make you famous.
Yeah, I mean, you probably just, you found that book about opening a gym so valuable, and this guy was probably like, would anybody actually need this? But, people come to me. I have this guy who, not to disclose too much, but he has a business helping people with hoarding, right? So it's like, is anybody going to actually benefit from that? And it's a matter of being like, you need the right audience. You need to direct it to the reader, address their pain points.
Did you say hoarding?
Hoarding, yes. Hoarding. So people who just, they buy too much, it becomes a problem, unfortunately. It's almost like something you don't think about, but a lot of people deal with, unfortunately.
There's tons of hoarders out there.
Exactly. But, so he asked me, he was like, is this something someone would want to read about? And I go, absolutely. You have to just frame it to the right type of people. For example, you might want to,
hoarders and their children.
Right. But not even just that. Think about this. He built his business off of helping them. How to make a business by helping others, or, something along those lines, finding a way to financial success through something you love doing. Find the right audience, branch it out even more. There might be a niche, but also you can expand it. So many options. And that's, talking to somebody about it helps you come up with those ideas.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is, once you get the first one out, people ask you questions, and that's where you get your ideas for your second, third, and fourth book. Every book I've ever written was a response to a client that came to me and said, how do we do this? I start to explain it, and then I go, you know what? It's just easier to write a book, because then I can give you the book, and then
give me 10 days. I'll get back to you on that.
Well, seriously, I mean, that's why I wrote, the last 5 or 6 books was just like, how many times am I going to explain this in person before I just write it down? I can say, here's the book, read the book, right?
Wow.
How to master a nonfiction book in under an hour? Like, how does that change your life? And I had a mentor, John Lee, who showed me how to do it. He said, here's how a nonfiction book is structured. If you understand the structure, then you can tear it apart, put it back together in under an hour. You can learn 80% of the value of that in less than an hour. That's why I wrote Leaders Are Readers, because I have so many leaders that I work with. They go, oh, I don't have time to read. I'm like, no, you don't have time not to read. You have to. You cannot stay current if you're not reading. But you have to learn how to read efficiently, right?
And effectively. That's your main thing about time. Making the most of it.
It's the only scarce resource we have, really. Whatever it is you need in business or personal life, whatever it is you need in life, whatever it is, there's somebody, if you don't have enough of it, there's somebody who's got too much of it. And that includes money. I mean, right now, there's a glut of investment money out there. They can't find opportunities, right? There's always people who have too much of stuff that you want, but you just have to get connected. This goes back to the partnership thing. The one thing that none of us have enough of that we cannot get is time, and the way to leverage your time is through other people's partnerships, right?
Yeah, I guess that's I think that's becoming almost a theme of this episode right now. It's just finding ways to grow yourself, grow your business, get your ideas and your book out there, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it comes down to making the most of your time and helping yourself find the resources to make it happen, like this partnership. I love that. It relates to writing, it relates to, consulting, to anybody when you're like.
So this is part of a George Bernard Shaw quote, that life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I've got hold of for the moment, and I have to make it burn as brightly as possible. Now that's a chunk out of a much bigger chunk, and you should look up Jeff Goldblum, where he does the whole thing. He does it. I've seen him do it 2 or 3 different venues. He really does it justice and really talks about that. But that's what life is, right? We get our little blip here, and the question is, how many people can you help on the way through? Because that's the only thing that matters. On your deathbed, nobody's going to say, I wish I'd worked more, right? What they're going to say is, 10 more minutes with my child. I want another 10 minutes with my spouse, right? Or my whatever. It's all about the people, the relationship. So how many people can you help on the way through?
Yeah. I mean, branching off of that, your book, like you said, you write them as responses to questions you've gotten. So just in itself, for a fact that you've helped many people because they're tailored to specific problems and questions people have. I mean,
there's the other thing about writing, which is, it still boggles my mind. I mean, I have not processed this internally yet. How many people you touch that you don't know you touched?
You'll never know.
So I was in China in 2010. I was speaking for Lenovo, and I was in the Lenovo company cafeteria in Beijing, and there were these people. There were, 8 or 10 guys, and they kept pointing at me. And I'm in China for the first time. I don't know what's happening, right? But I'm like, okay, I'm obviously.
Hey, what am I doing wrong? Why are you looking?
I'm the white guy. I'm in the cafeteria. I'm probably eating the wrong food, or I'm not I'm violating some custom or other. I don't know. But after about 10 minutes of pointing at me, the one guy comes over and he says, "Are you Rick Barrera?" Okay, I'm on the other side of the planet, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
never
oh my God. I'm like, yes, I am Rick Barrera. And he said, we built our entire company around your books and your video series. He said, would it be okay if I invited my colleagues over because they would like to meet? I was like, sure. And they all came over. I mean, you thought I was,
you have own little fan club right there.
You'd have thought I was some kind of a rock star. These people were like...
Were you signing autographs?
They did. I asked me to sign. Anyway, it was so funny. It was hysterical. They were from India. And they said, we watched your video and we loved it. We got all your videos. We watched all the videos, and then we got your books and we read all your books. We built our whole company around you. And they told me about all the things they did and how they changed everything they were doing as a result of that. I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know my stuff was in India. But that's the power of putting your ideas out. You never know who needs them and what they're going to do with them. And so you got to get it done. It's critical.
It goes right back to, finding that perfect audience. But then there's something I always say, when you have a book out there, it's that legacy. It's always going to be there. Nobody can erase that. Out there on the shelves, it's printed. It's a real thing. Even when you're not on the planet anymore, somebody can pick up that book. You never know. Yeah.
My grandmother was a writer. My father was a journalist, but he was from Spain. And in Spain, they have a saying, a man is not a man. Well, we'll go in your case, we'll go a woman is not a woman, same thing. It's a patriarchal culture. What can I tell you? A man is not a man until he has fathered a child, planted a tree, written a book.
I like that. In a way, all three of those things are interrelated. The commonality is it's something that you'll be here when you're not. That's why, it's so important for especially business leaders who they work so hard for their companies and have specific frameworks, putting it on paper, making that book. It not only gives you that credibility, that authority, but it's always going to be there. It's going to spread your reach. People can take your ideas and learn from them and continue what you're doing later on. So it's great. Hey, can you tell me a little bit more about if every book is answering a question that somebody has asked you? Tell me more about some of them. So I know that over-promise and over-deliver is one, for example. What was that specific situation that led you to create that book? So somebody came up to you and asked you about...
Because my editor kept harassing me. He said, you need to tell me, is this a branding book or a customer service book? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And it used to drive him crazy. And he said, I have to put it in a category. I said, why? What if there was a third category, right? Just because you don't have it in your catalog doesn't mean there isn't a third category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever category you put in, it's so cool.
Yeah. Came as a response. I was doing work with a client, and the original title for that was Touchpoint Branding. The intermediate title was Flawless Execution. So what we were trying to figure out was not how do we do 10,000 things right, because you can do 10,000 things right as a company, but it takes takes forever to get your systems and processes to do 10,000 things right. So what we were looking for is, what is the minimum number of things that we can do right that will endear us to our customers and turn us into a brand? What we discovered through trial and error was 3. You actually could build a brand on a single touch point. And a touch point is any place where the company and the customer come in contact. So whether that's face to face or phone to phone, or buy your product or whatever it is, just 2 or 3 touch points can hugely shift a consumer's perception of a brand.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the magic number. You don't want too many, too little.
Well, look, you can't afford 100. You can't afford to do 100 things, right? Because by definition, this is one of the things most business people don't get. If you look at the world as sort of a bell-shaped curve, right, of experiences, let's just take restaurants. There are terrible restaurants, and there are, world-class amazing restaurants, both each ends of the bell-shaped curve. Most restaurants are in the middle, right? They're average restaurants by definition. So you go out to a restaurant and you eat and you go home and, you watch TV and you go to bed, okay? You don't go home and call all your friends and go, oh my God, I ate at, whatever, McDonald's. I'll just, pick the most famous one, right? I ate at McDonald's. You're not going to believe it. I had hamburger and French fries, right? Your friends are going to go, okay, and you're going to go, but I had hamburger and French fries, they're going to go, and, right? It's in the middle of the bell-shaped curve. We've all had that experience. Things that people are going to talk about are way out on the extreme end.
Either one high or low, right? Good or bad.
Correct. Okay. I went to the French Laundry. I was a guest of one of my clients. Went to the French Laundry in Northern California. It's a 15-course meal. It takes 5 hours.
That's in pretty small portions then, or otherwise how
very tiny portions. But even at that, I did have a food coma at the end. But mostly because of the dessert course, alcoholics. That guy got into trouble there.
There you go back.
But
to that,
lots of small, little small bites, but really, really, really like world-class, amazing. Like I can tell you, like course, all 15 course, like this most amazing, like extraordinary meal of my life, right? And here I am talking about it. Why am I talking about it? Because it's not in the middle of the bell-shaped curve. It's way out on the right-hand side, right?
When, on the other hand, you could probably also remember the worst meal you ever had.
The reason I'm talking about this is because business people do not understand that average experiences are unremarkable. People don't talk about them. Therefore, you you blend into the background. If you want to differentiate yourself, you have to get way, way, way out on the end of that curve. And most people want to go 5% out or 10% out. And they don't understand, well, why isn't this working? Because it's not different enough. You can make a chocolate cake and you can make it 10% better than the other person, but are they going to drive, 20 miles to get it? Are they going to tell every one of their friends? No, because it's 10% better.
Yeah, I'm kind of picturing like a roller coaster, right? Like if you don't actually push yourself up, it's just going to slide right back down, right?
Yeah, you have to do things that are way, way, way outside the norm. And when you do that, you radically differentiate yourself. That's where overpromise and overdeliver came from. It was about that, and we were experimenting with things, and we tried some things that were just mind-blowing, unbelievably statistical anomalies of the growth that we got from doing small things that really mattered to the customer. And each time we did an experiment, we'd do one, and their revenues would just skyrocket, right? And then we'd do another little thing, and it would skyrocket. But we were doing the research about what is it that really annoys people in the industry and what are the things that people really, really want, right? Where there was a lot of passion around it. And that's where we changed how the company did what it did. And then when you change that touch point, it skyrockets. So that was where that book came from.
Yeah. And what I love what you said is that you had that research, right? Those studies to say what actually the little things that made it even better. When you add
I'll give you a great one. You asked me about my stories. Where do I get my stories? My stories are all lessons that I learned, right? So I grew up on Aesop's fables. You know what those are?
Not sure, actually. I was going to just on my head. Oh, okay.
Go to the library.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Go to the library and get a book of Aesop's fables. They're little stories for children that have a moral at the end.
So I know what a fable is. Aesop in particular, I was like, okay, wait, what? Okay, it looks like it's of Greek origin, BCE. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, they're children's stories, right? But each story has a moral at the end of it. So they're usually about animals. It's like that animal. They have this interaction, and then there's a moral. So it's how my brain works. In my life, I've had these experiences where I've learned a thing, right? Where you fall down and you break your nose, and you go, okay, don't do that again. And there's a moral to it. So when I go to tell a story, it's to illustrate the thing that I learned, right? So I start with the point, the moral. I tell the story because stories stick with people. The human brain is weird for stories.
Yep.
Because we used to sit around the campfire and tell each other stories about how to live in the world, right? And don't go down in the big swamp there because there's an alligator down there and he eats people. Okay, like I remember that story. He ate your uncle and your aunt and your cousin.
Yeah.
I won't go there.
Yeah. So now it's a little more complicated. Let me tell you this story about like my business concept. A little bit different, but it's memorable.
Right. Yeah. So, people don't remember the principles that I teach them, but they all remember the stories. I talk to people 20 years later. They go, I remember the story you told me about blah, blah, blah. Like, they stick. So that's why I use so many stories.
Was there a particular fable that you were going to reference? Like, I feel like there's probably some that even I would know. Like, isn't there one about like a lion that had like a thorn in his toe and then the mouse had to pull it out? But it was all about partnership, how they had to work together.
Yeah. So that's one. The fox with the grapes, right? The fox was trying to get the grapes. He was jumping, he couldn't reach them. And then he turns around, he walks away, and he says, oh, they're probably sour anyway. So the things that are not within your reach, you make the choice to denigrate them when that's not necessarily the right thing to do. So, but that's where the term sour grapes came from. If you've heard people say that, well, that's just sour grapes, right?
Yeah, I've heard that before. That's so funny that when you were saying that, for some reason, my immediately thought was that, oh, well, if you can't reach it, maybe it's not meant for you. That's so funny that like that kind of limiting belief came to my mind. I'm sure that comes to many other people. It's kind of like, if you can't reach it, okay.
It's like when you don't get invited to the Hollywood party and you go, oh, I heard it was a terrible party anyway, right? That's sour grapes.
Okay.
So there's a ton of them. One of my favorites is about the bat who birds won't hang out with him because he's got fur. The mice won't hang out with him because he's got wings, right? And so it's about him being stuck in the middle, not being either one. So anyway, there's a ton of them.
I was waiting for you to say, so what did he do about it? But I guess, he's just, in that case, he's just stuck in the middle and you got to find your way out of it one way or another.
Well, he was trying to play both sides instead of either choosing a side or being unique. He was trying to be part bird and part mouse, and that didn't work.
That's the funniest thing. I feel like maybe the meaning behind these type of fables is, in a way, you can kind of interpret it in
there's lots
multiple
of
ways. And
look, everybody's heard the fable of the horse and the hare.
Okay.
That's an Aesop fable. Slow and steady wins the race. That's the moral.
Right, yeah. And it's funny because the fox, got worn out going fast. Or sorry, not the fox, the hare.
Yes.
Right, but like it's funny because you can interpret that in other ways too. Like more so like, okay, he had to take a break and relax, versus like going straight ahead. Many different ways to interpret it. And I guess, just relating it back to like how we write our books is you can interpret it and kind of cater your message to a specific audience so that
sometimes you twist it, right? Because
exactly.
the phrase in business is under promise and over deliver. And we twisted it to over promise and over deliver.
That's so funny. When I read it the first time, I was like, did I just read that correctly? But no, that makes sense. Yeah. It's all about catering to the client and giving them what they need, those little things like you mentioned.
Well, it's promising something that you can do that only you can do, something you can do for them that no one else can do. And then you still have to over deliver on it.
Really?
But people say under promise. Well, if I go out in a crowded marketplace and I under promise, I'll never get the business.
Going back to that same topic, we talked about the whole bell curve, right? Like you have to get, over the curve because only one end is going to be memorable. You made a whole example about how that restaurant would either be successful or not successful based on, the most memorable experience. You worked at a restaurant, didn't you?
My father had a restaurant. It was called the Harness Shop because it was an old harness shop for horses. And there were harnesses hanging on the walls. And it was very rustic and it was beautiful. A ski resort town. And we'd be in there. We'd be working and setting things up and getting ready for dinner or whatever. And I loved to sit at the bar when I was a young whippersnapper. It was cool to sit at the bar and I'd, eat the nuts on the bar and have a Coke or whatever. And my father would open at 4:30 and he would look at me and say, get out of that chair. Like there's a massive crowd or something, right? We're the only two people there. He's like, get out of there. I said, we're the only ones here. He said, what if somebody comes in and they want that chair? And I go, yeah, there's 18 other chairs. He's like, but what if that's their favorite chair? They won't kick you out of it because you're in it. And they also know you're my son. So they're going to let you, they're going to give you deference, but they're the customer. They're paying. This is their experience. This is not your experience. Get out of the chair. And so, what he taught me was how to think from the point of view of the customer. He used to do this thing. This cracks me up. Every time I think about it, it cracks me up still. He used to do this thing where he would go to customers later in the evening, and he would say to them, hey, I noticed you looked at the dessert menu and you didn't choose anything. He said, what could we have had that you would have ordered? And they always say, oh, no, I've been drinking and I ate a lot of food and I'm not really hungry and I didn't need dessert, but, I'd like to see, whatever. And so then he would say this thing, and he did it. I saw him do this 1,000 times. This cracked me up. He'd look at them and he'd say, do you like ice cream? Who doesn't like ice cream? Like everybody there, yeah, I like ice cream. He's like, tell me your favorite flavor and I'll have the chef make it for you. And they'd say, really? And he'd say, yeah. And they'd say, well, I like Cherries Garcia, or I like pistachio. And he would come back to the kitchen. He would hand me $5. He'd say, run over to the supermarket and get some Cherries Garcia.
How did I know that's what was coming next? Stop it. That's hilarious.
Right next door. I'd be back in 7 minutes with whatever kind of ice cream, sometimes 2 or 3, and he'd put them in these fancy bowls, and he'd put whipped cream and cherry on top, and he would take it out, and he'd say, here's dessert, compliments of the chef. It used to crack me up. First of all, we didn't have a chef. We had a cook, and the cook lived next door, and the reason the cook lived next door is because my father wanted to know where she was. He said, this is the restaurant business. She has to be in here every day. If she's not here, I need to know where she is, and I'm going next door. I'm going to get her out of the kitchen or wherever she is. Boy. She needs to be like, he didn't cook. He's like, I need to cook. The whole thing was hysterical. But it was about the customer experience. And I can't tell you how many people have told me, oh my God, your father used to make ice cream for me all the time. I was like, I was the ice cream creating the customer magic right in the back. But it cracked me up. He thought always from the customer's viewpoint. That's what I learned growing up in that business.
I have so many questions. Like, first off, does Ben and Jerry's know that you've been passing off the ice cream?
It's not just them. Breyers and Haagen-Dazs and everything else. But yeah, I mean, it's about thinking about the world through the customer's eyes and creating an experience for them that is valuable to them.
Yeah, definitely.
My father did another thing that was like totally bizarre. He was from Spain, and he had these Spanish ashtrays made for clay, and they said the harness shop on them, and they were handmade. They were really special, like really cute. You look at them and you go, oh my God, that's so cute, right? Okay. I said, why would you buy 10,000 ashtrays? We only have 30. And he said, because they're going to steal them. I said, what? I said, they're going to steal it? He said, yeah, they're going to steal them. I said, is that okay? Like, I grew up, Catholic. You're not supposed to do that, right? And he's like, yeah, it's great. It's going to be advertising for us. It has our phone number on it.
Stop. That's awesome. Because then that's going to be the house, and then they're going to be like,
exactly.
Where'd you get that from?
So all the chalets, where they had all the, like the Airbnb kind of things and all that, they all had the harness shop ashtrays in them. And what cracked me up was he died a few years ago, and I was back there for the funeral, and people kept coming to me, and they're going, I've been thinking about your father all week long, and I can't stand it anymore. I stole an ashtray from him 30 years ago.
Oh no!
And they would give it back to me.
So much.
I had 50 people give ashtrays back his funeral.
What do you say in that situation? Did you tell them that he was planning?
I said he wanted you to steal them. He bought 10,000 of them.
Oh,
and they were like, really? They're like, oh my God, I had so much guilt. I was like, he died and I stole his ashtray.
Would you like to go over those questions that I did prepare for you? Or if you'd like, I also actually have a little game I do like to play with.
Whatever you want to do. It's your podcast.
Yeah. So
I'm just here to be the meat.
Of course. Well, I'd like to ask you, I call it the rapid fire questions. I'm just going to give you a couple questions. They're related to
the lightning round.
Exactly, the lightning round. So whatever comes to the top of your head, we'll go for it. One of them we actually covered already. We know you love that dark chocolate. So, one thing that I was going to ask you is, what is your go-to excuse when procrastination hits? How do you solve that?
Oh,
right.
I have a mantra which my kids can recite very easily, which is begun is half done. So you don't have to finish it. You don't even have to do a big chunk of it. All you got to do is begin it. So if I have a chapter to write and I can't write the chapter, that's all right. I'm just going to write the first paragraph, and then I'm going to be done with that task, because begun is half done.
I love it. And you know what? I just realized, as I asked that, is you are all about time management. You are not a procrastinator. You don't have it.
So no, I do. I'm bad actually on a lot of things, right? But this is how I trick myself. I say, well, begun is half done. So I'm not going to write the whole thing. I'm just going to write a paragraph, and then then it's out of the way, right? Well, when you write the first paragraph, you go, oh, that's good. I should write the second paragraph. I'll write the third. The next thing you know, you're in the zone. You've either in the chapter, half the chapter, or whatever it is. But you have to trick yourself into beginning the thing, right? So I've been building the gym, and I've been doing all these things that I don't really know how to do. Like, this week I was doing drywall, and I did it in college, but that was a long time ago. I don't remember how to do drywall. Right. But I said, I'm just gonna put one up and screw it in, and then I did like a whole wall, but just because it was easy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember now. Oh yeah, this goes here. So it's about tricking yourself into doing some little tiny portion of it. And if that's as far as you get, that's okay too.
I mean, that probably ties right into the how to write a book in 10 days concept. Like, do what you can, see how it feels, but, hold yourself accountable, take that first step. So my next question I actually had prepared is, earlier on, you mentioned how important it is to read, right? You're learning from reading. How many books do you think you could read in 1 week? Like, if you were given a challenge, like ready, set, go.
Oh, a couple hundred. I've done this before, like when I'm preparing for a speech or a consulting assignment. I mean, I will go through 20, 30, 50, 100 books on a topic.
That's incredible. That goes right back to just like, when you're interested in something, you just keep going because you're interested. You need to learn it.
Think about this. The problem for most people is they don't have a base, right? If you read one book a year, you don't have a base. I read at least 3 or 4 books a week, and a lot of them on business topics. If I'm reading a book on customer service, I have 30 years of experience of reading customer service book. I don't have to read everything in the book. I have to read to find what's the thing that's in this book that's not in any other book. Does that make sense?
Oh,
I'm
definitely
looking for the 1 or 2 key ideas. When I'm tackling a new topic, I had a speakers bureau call me up one time, and they said, we need a speaker on category management. And I said, I don't know what category management is. And they said, neither does anybody else. Will you do the talk? And I said, sure.
Wait, was this Love and Money?
No.
Oh, something else.
So this was on category management, which is a subset of marketing. But I didn't know anything about it. But I said, sure, I'll take it. I mean, I had like 6 months to get ready. I'll figure it out between now and then. So I called John Lee, who's the Library of Congress. He's my mentor. He's like my hero. He's like the reason that I made all the money I made in my life. Probably the smartest guy I'll ever know. And I just called John. I'm like, John, I got to do this speech on category management. He goes, okay, here's your reference. And he names 2 or 3 books that I need to read on category management.
He just knew it, like, just right off the top of his head. He's like, go ahead.
John is the Library of Congress. I'm telling you, I've never called John one time and said, what about this? And he doesn't say, okay, here's your reference. Here's 2 or 3, right? So once he got me into the category, then I was like, okay, now I understand what category management is and what it does and how it works. And by the way, I'm a sales and marketing guy. So if it's in marketing, like, it's not that I don't know anything about it. I just didn't know about that particular little niche thing. You with me? So I know what comes before it. I know what comes after it. I know what's above it. I know what's below it. I just didn't know about that little thing.
There's always that one other thing that you can learn to read.
So I sat down. I probably read in a week 30 or 40 books on category management. Okay. Well, by the end of the week, I'm smarter than anybody who's going to be in the audience.
Did you raise your hand? You just kind of got up there, and did you share any of that, what you knew, or just kind of? No,
I designed the whole speech around they had a specific problem with category management that they were trying to solve, and they had all their category managers there. So I was helping them to sort through how do you think through this problem and solve the problem for the client. So anyway, the point is, if you learn to read like that and to pull the uniquenesses out of each book, you can take any topic, literally any topic, and just learn it in a very short period of time.
Yeah, it's a matter of need and necessity sometimes over, passion too drives it, but you keep reading and you find out more about it, and then you nail that speech, that presentation, whatever it is you need to know. I like it. Okay, is there any other particular messages you'd like to leave our listeners with today? We talked a lot about the importance of partnership. We talked about time management. What's one last thing you want to?
Every single author, every single book, every single time, but especially first-time authors, just freak out about what if it's not good enough? What if it's not complete enough? What if I say something wrong? What if? Okay, no one would ever have written any book if they did that. You just have to put it out there. Some people will like it. Some people won't like it. It's okay. You've done it. You've written a book. Now go plant a tree, have a child. You're good. Your life is complete. Right? Yeah. You just have to do it. And when I work with people, I always say I extract the book from them because they will not let it go. They will sit there, like it's football of life. They will not let go of it. And I extract it from them and publish it. And then good things happen. And they say, oh my God, I was so scared. But what are you scared of? To me, the scarier thing is to have not done it. What if you're on your deathbed and you say, I should have written a book? I wrote the book and I never published it. Like, so sad.
Yeah, you don't know how much time you have. You have to just get out there, make that plan, do it. 10 days is all it takes. Speaking of which, you have so many experiences under your belt, from like the gym to the restaurant industry to speaking. Other than the gym, is there anything else that our listeners can look out for in the future for you, for any national projects coming up?
I have a website called partnerhere.com, which is fledgling. It's fledgling, but it really needs entrepreneurs. It's a community of entrepreneurs to help other entrepreneurs. And we don't have enough. We need more people. To me, this is my passion project. How can we get entrepreneurs to help other entrepreneurs? We don't need any more billionaires. We don't need any more Googles or Facebooks or Amazons. We don't. What we need is 10 million entrepreneurs.
Right. And I like how you have, it's all about that partnership again, right? Like helping each other, a platform where they can just hop on. How does it work?
That's why it's called Partner.
Sign up for it?
There's free. It's a website. It's free. There's two things it's designed to do. The first thing it's designed to do is for you to find a partner. So you say, look, I want to start a closet remodeling company. Who wants to be my partner? I'm an accountant and I want to be a partner in a business, but I don't know what business I want to be in. Well, somebody can reach out and say, well, I need an accounting partner in my whatever business, right? My social media business or whatever it might be.
Kind of like a dating app, but for
exactly what it is. That's the first half. The second half is using what I call alternative compensation. So what's the problem for fledgling entrepreneurs, right? They always say, well, I want to start my business, but I don't have any money. That's the first thing they always say. Okay. It's my belief you don't need money to start a business. Doesn't matter what business it is. You don't need money to start it. If you do, there's plenty of places you can go get it, but that's not the point. The point is that whatever you don't have enough of, including money, there's somebody who's got too much and they will give it to you. So you go on Partner Here and you say, I want to start a business, but I need somebody who understands architecture, or I need somebody who understands coding, or I need somebody who understands finance, or whatever it is. And then you can become partners. That's one way to do it. Or you can use equity in your company and say, well, look, I need somebody to do our accounting. I'm willing to give up 5% of the company to have somebody who can run the finances. Or you can say, look, I need a website built, but I don't have any cash, right? But a year from now, so if you charge $1,000 to do a website, right, I'll pay you $2,000 a year from now if you do my website now, right? Well, if you're a website designer and you're sitting around on the weekend not doing anything, why wouldn't you build a website and get $2,000 a year from now? You say, well, no, I'm, busy playing Halo. Okay, well, but if you play Halo all weekend, you're not going to have $2,000 a year from now, right? You build a website, you put money in the bank for the future, right? So it's a different way of thinking, but it's entrepreneurs. I think the only way our economy is going to get truly robust and strong is for pretty much everybody to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain mentality behind that, because I think about it myself as a ghostwriter and editor. This has started as my side gig. I actually am a teacher. I was doing this on the side, and a lot of people, they're tired and they go home. They said they're playing Halo, they're watching, The Golden Bachelor, whatever it is. But then there's a matter of just do what you want to do. Put your passion into it, put your time into it. You don't know where, like you said, that's how entrepreneurs are born. And your platform, it's clear that it's another way to leverage that for people.
That's what it's about. That's my passion project. Yeah. I've been on it for a decade. It's still crawling, but when we get critical mass, I think it'll take off. I think it'll be very valuable.
For sure. Yes. Everybody, make sure you check that out. And can you say it for everybody listening, what is you can find that at?
www.partnerhere.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, listeners, check it out. Check out his books. He has so many insights that can help you, whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's build a business or anything books in life, I'm sure you could find some expertise from that. And honestly, he's been from restaurant life to consulting to best-selling author. It just shows how powerful it can be when you transform your experiences into books that can serve others, leave that lasting legacy. If you'd like to do the same thing, I'd love to show you how you can do it on Authors on Mission. We can get similar results, whether you're a CEO, consultant, a thought leader, or whoever you are. Visit authorsonmission.com as well to discover how we're busy helping everybody write books to build legacy and drive business growth. And well, with that, this has been another podcast with Authors on Mission. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and we're here with Rick Barrera. And Rick, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we covered some amazingly insightful conversation. So thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, listeners, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.